Welcome to the Relaxed Dog Podcast, the podcast where the dogs are the stars of the show. Welcome to episode 27 of the Relaxed Dog Podcast, sponsored by therelaxeddog.com. Thank you for listening. I am your host, Robert Ober, and I hope that you and your dog are well. This week's guest is a friend of mine. Rebecca will be telling us all about her Siberian Husky, Chief. But first, in some doggy news, I am guessing we're all familiar with the story of Hachiko and his devotion. Well, it appears that something similar is happening in a place called Naupaktos in Greece, where a dog's loyalty is melting hearts. The dog's owner got hit by a cement mixer on the side of the road a bit over a year ago. And apparently the dog goes to that spot and stays there. People have tried to take it away, to look after it, but he keeps on going back to that one spot. So rather than fight that, some locals have got together. They've built him a kennel, give him a blanket, and they regularly give him food and water. And he basically lives there now. He's being referred to the Greek Hachiko. Now, in an unknown town in Australia, a young couple rescued a stray, took the dog home and started looking after it, and all was going well. He was putting on a bit of weight. The young lady had to leave for personal reasons for a little while, and the gentleman wasn't quite well versed in the art of looking after the dog, so he gave it a lot of human food and steak and KFC, etc., etc. The dog gained a lot of weight and has now got a little bit of social media notoriety for getting stuck in a doggy door. So instead of taking that off straight away, they took a couple of pictures and thought that was great to post. So please take note of what you feed your dog and monitor its weight. And now on to this week's interview. Welcome to the Relaxed Dog Podcast, Rebecca. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you, Robert. How are you?
I am very, very well and very happy to speak with you this morning.
As am I.
Yeah. And who is going to be the subject for today's discussion?
I'm going to talk about Chief.
Chief, yes. Well, to those listening, I do know Chief, so this is going to be a good talk.
Let's hope so.
So, as per usual, and I know you know the format of the show, so take us back to the time just before you got Chief and run us through those series of events.
Okay, so I had just moved into a house. So I went from a unit to a house, and a friend at the time had a litter of puppies. And I was sort of umming and ahhing about, getting a puppy. I'd never had my own personal dog before. So I basically was sort of umming and ahhing, and she said, come round and help me socialise these puppies. So I went around nearly every day, and I'd walk in when they were old enough to sort of, walk around and sniff and see and things like that. And I would walk in and go, who's going to come home with me? Every single time Chief would come and sit in my lap. So after about, I think, 4 weeks, she said to me, you have to take this dog home. So I went home and I researched the breed, and the thing that actually hooked me was that I thought that was really cool because I believe every dog has a purpose, and I wouldn't just get a dog to be a dog sort of thing. I wanted to do something with my dog that I was going to get. So got approval from the landlord at the time, and then he came home with me.
And for those listening, Chief's breed is?
He is a Siberian Husky.
Lovely.
So big steps to do, and when you choose a Husky as your first breed, they're not for the faint-hearted. But ever since I had him, I probably will only have Huskies until I can no longer have Huskies. I'm hooked.
And I think what you mentioned initially, it's quite often not that we choose, but they choose us.
Oh, he definitely chose me. He would always come and sit with me, and he definitely chose me.
So how was he, in your eyes, a little different to the rest of the litter?
He was actually the runt. So he was full of personality. He actually got stuck under the oven at the house where he was born. So they couldn't find him for 5 hours, and he was under the oven. So he was a little bit mischievous when he was younger.
Mm-hmm. Not now, of course.
Oh no! Now he's got a whole he's got a whole lot of different issues now, which is unfortunate. But it is what it is. But he was very independent when he was young. He was still a mama's boy, but he wasn't as bad when he was younger than he is now. So so he's very independent, and he loved to explore and things like that.
Mm-hmm. So you got him home at the usual 8-week-ish mark?
Actually, he came to me at 6 weeks. At the time, I wasn't aware that was not appropriate. I know better now. But being my first dog, she said, it's time to take him home. So I did. My roommate at the time actually bought his litter mate. So he actually came home with his brother.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
So he got to stay with his brother for the first about 16 months of his life.
Mm-hmm. How was that sort of initial transition into your place?
Interesting. We had a rag doll. And I also had 2 pet rats at that stage as well. But when they came home, we actually had a no dogs on the bed rule. It lasted probably 5 minutes.
As they do, yep.
The first night, they were pretty good the first night. They actually ended up in bed with me, both puppies, and the cat. So, and actually there was also a beagle. My roommate had a beagle as well. So, and he was pretty good with the puppies. But no, they were pretty good.
Okay, so they did have a couple of teachers then.
Yes, they had a couple of teachers. They were really good. From what I can remember, it was 8 years ago, so it was a long time ago.
Mm-hmm. And good, no real dramas with the cat?
No, they were pretty good with the cat. We had baby gates up, so our toilet was separated from our bathroom, and that's where the kitty litter was. And so the baby gate was up to stop the dogs from eating the kitty litter, and he would rile the dogs up to the point where they would chase him, and then he'd just jump the fence and just sit there and just be like, no, 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 like, and they would just stop for the fence because there wasn't enough room for them to jump into the bathroom. So, the cat actually figured out how to use the dog door, and we had the Huskies on either side of the fence because it was one of those pool type fences.
Mm-hmm.
So there was gaps in the fence, and this is the only reason why I knew the cat got out is because it walked through the fence between the two Huskies, and the dogs didn't react. And everyone says Huskies and cats don't get on, and it was just unbelievable to watch. But then when we found out the cat was using the dog door, the cat ended up in a cat run during the day. And then we just locked them in at night because we didn't like the cat outside.
Mm-hmm. That's a nice, responsible cat owner reply.
Well, thank you very much. I wish more people would do that. But yeah, it was awesome to see, but I was like, I nearly had a heart attack at the same time.
So as the few months going into it, he caught up in size with his brother?
He did. I mean, his brother did grow quicker than Chief did, being the runt of the litter. But he gained a healthy weight in a good amount of time, and he ended up being just a little bit taller than his brother, but not by much.
Mm-hmm.
But his brother was fatter. So I don't know if he was like finishing his food and then going and finishing his brother's food or what was the go there, but he was a bit fat. Like Chief has always been a bit lean. What I thought was lean until I got my next puppy, but he was a good healthy weight for the circumstance.
Okay. And when he was young, around that stage, did he develop any particular favourite games or things to play with?
He liked to take my shoes. That was interesting. My work shoes in particular. He liked to play, like you try to get him back and he'd think it was a good old tug game. He liked his squeaky toys. So you kind of play fetch, but some Huskies play fetch and some Huskies just don't. And he was a bit of an in-between. He sometimes would fetch and squeak the toy, and then you'd chase him and try and get it back, and then he'd think, tug, yeah, this is awesome. And then you'd throw it again and he'd look at you like, why did you throw my toy? So, but I think the favourite game was zoomies with the brother and chasing the cat. That would have been his favourite thing to do.
And any sort of negative effects of that when it was inside the house?
No. Like they would stop when, like they would run around furniture and then they'd stop for furniture and then they'd stop for the baby gate and when the cat would jump the fence, and sometimes the beagle would get involved, and then they just run around and jump on couches and then run outside and come back in. So it was pretty good.
Nice. And what about some early sort of training things? What did you sort of do interactive with Chief then? Training sort of happened as soon as they came in. I was reading up on, things to do, because being first pet, you want to do as much right as possible. So the training, I ended up clicker training very, very early on. And he loved chicken. That was his favorite treat when we were doing any sort of training activities. And we did the usual sit, stay, not that he really stays, but a drop. He's got a special trick where I say his only party trick is self-control, where I get him to drop. I get 2 pieces of treats, I put them on each paw, and he can't touch them until I say he can touch them. Mm-hmm. And he's pretty good. And then we did do a bit of agility when they got older. So we ended up buying some agility equipment and teaching them to do that. And we would go to Agility Dogs New South Wales in Cherrybrook, and we'd do a bit of that as well. So it was interesting
when we went there, because after about a month, the lady that was running it said to me, you can unclip him. And I said, what? No, he's a husky. Like, no way am I taking the leash off this dog. I did it once and he was really good. His brother took off, but he came straight back to me, and the trainer said, he's really focused on you. And I said, no, he's focused on the chicken that I've got in my training pouch. So,
So with the training, was it always in conjunction with his brother as well?
His brother would be separated. I would do one and then my roommate would do the other. So we would have one inside the house when the other one was training. Mm-hmm. But when we would go to Cherrybrook, we'd both go together. So
okay, yeah, nice. Yeah. And how far did the agility progress with Chief?
Not very far, because work commitments sort of got in the way, and I was on a rotating roster and couldn't always make the training sessions. So we went for about 12 months, and I think he progressed to the third stage, which was like, he did the weave, he did the high, like the jump. I wanted to say high jump then, but I don't think that's the actual word for it. His favourite thing was the tunnel. He loved running through the tunnel. He thought it was just absolutely fabulous. And then because I'd make him run through one end and then make him run through the other end, and he'd be like, this is so fun. And then he'd come back like, where's my treats? But we didn't do anything competitive wise or anything like that with it, because work commitments got in the way. And then we found the sledding. So that basically took over our entire life in winter. Mm-hmm.
So when you say you found the sledding?
Yeah. So at the time it was Siberian Husky Club of New South Wales. I found the website, and they had an introduction day. And so it was actually on their first birthday. So their first birthday, we went down, my roommate and I, we went down to the forest, and we did the introduction day, and we got on a scooter and hooked the dog up, and we were, well, for me personally, I was hooked pretty much. Like, I'm pretty sure I did like 3 laps of Belangalo's campground, and that was it. I was hooked.
You were hooked, and Chief?
And he loved it. The photos, I'm looking back at the photos of him, you know, on training days and competitive race days, and he's just got this big smile, and he was just so happy. He was never a fast dog. He just loved to run, and that was okay by me.
Oh, nice. Take us through a little bit of the initial sort of like training and getting into the sledding part.
So after our intro day, we ordered harnesses, and they came, and we were sitting there trying to figure out how to put harnesses on after seeing it done once. So we had to do a bit of chicken and, you know, get the neck piece and chicken, put your head through. Chief is real interesting. He doesn't like his feet being touched, so he'll actually really quickly step his feet into his harness. And then we'd hook him up to either the scooter or the clothesline for line out training. And then daily walks, we would say G and ho, which is left and right. So that's basically how we did our integration for turns and stops. So I basically do, and I still do it now on our walks, you know, when we need to turn a corner, when I need to make them stop for crossings and things like that, I make them stop and stand. And that's how we did the training for that. And then when we started racing competitively, I was in Blaxland at the time, so there's a bush track in Glenbrook, which was not too far away, and we would actually run 2K. I think it was 2.5K round trip, but there was nowhere to turn around, so you'd actually have to stop, turn your bike around, then turn the dog around, and then run back.
Yep.
So that's how we started our training runs, and then we did a few training runs with the club and Michelle and Pete, and then when I moved, we started running around the lake. So because there was nowhere to really run unless you drive 3 hours away, so that's how we've kept up the training.
Ah, nice. And any initial sort of like dramas or?
Initially, well, so the first few years there was nothing, but then we had a few incidents at a training run where he was attacked on a run by a coolie. The person who owned the coolie panicked instead of trying to control the situation. So he got attacked on a run, and then since the attack, he became a different dog, where he got frightened of the scooter. He got frightened of noise. He went from a very dog-friendly dog to being I don't want to say non-friendly dog, but he's very particular with who he's friendly with, dog-wise. So that it was unfortunate. So that happened because he loved to run, and then all of a sudden I then had to rework with him because I would hit the brakes and he would jump back, and he wouldn't be out in front of me in the scooter, like on the scooter. So I think I worked with him for a season for that, and then he basically decided he wasn't going to run anymore, which was upsetting because he's only 8 and he stopped running at about 5 or 6 competitively anyway.
Around that time, other things that sort of like possibly might have influenced what was going through his head?
No, I mean, we did have to, we moved away. So he went from being a multi-household dog to a multi-household dog to a single dog, because I did move a few times in that time period as well. He's now gone back to a multi-dog, which has been so much better for him. So that might have played a factor. He also did get bitten by a snake. So I moved out to the bush practically in the middle of nowhere. Well, it's not in the middle of nowhere, but it's pretty far away. And within the first 6 months of moving here, we had a brown snake in the yard and it bit him. So I nearly lost him.
Oh, no. Can you share a little bit more about what happened with that?
So it was Boxing Day, and my partner at the time, he said to me, "Your dog looks a little bit weirder than usual." And I looked at him, and he was off, and he was very lethargic. And we'd been up to see my mum, and it was a high bush tick prone area. That my dogs are always covered for fleas and ticks and things like that. Anything can happen. So I was checking him over, and that was my first thought, that he had a tick on him, like a paralysis tick. And then when he didn't improve, I actually messaged a good friend, Michelle. She knows all things dogs. So I messaged her, and, because I was in a bit of not a good state of mind, is there anything else I could be doing? He got worse. So I rang the vet and we rushed him to the vet, and she said, "We suspect snake bite because of the way he was deteriorating." She then said to me, "It's a 50-50 chance of survival." And I was devastated because the first family dog we ever had, we lost him to a snake. So it was a little bit too close to home. And so he stayed in overnight. We got the phone call the next morning, pretty much dead on 9 o'clock when they opened, to say, "Look, he's improving, he's eating, he's drinking. We just want to monitor him for another couple of hours, but if he still improves, then you can pick him up and take him home." So it was, I was absolutely devastated. I thought I was going to lose him. then they actually found that where the snake bit him, and I was like, I combed every inch of that dog and I could not find this like entry point at all, but it was on his chest, and the vet suspected it was a dry bite because of the symptoms that he had, because if it was fully, they suspected it was a brown, so they said to me, you know, if it was a full bite, he would have been dead.
Yep.
So yeah, it was the scariest moment ever, because I thought I was going to lose him, and he was only 3.5 at the time that happened.
Yeah, no, never good. We actually had our first snake this summer at our place last week. Was a red belly black, and Marley was just barking, and I thought I was a cat or possum. What's she after? But she stayed a couple of metres away from it, and basically just alerted us, to it, and sort of like, oh, okay, yep.
No, unfortunately, my guys, I think, would chase. I think what I suspect happened that day was that he was actually lying on the concrete, and it's come in the yard looking for water. Because of he when I had a look the next morning, because it was pretty much on dusk when it happened, and then rushing him to the vet and being nighttime. When I went out the next morning, there was he'd thrown up by the gate. So whether or not it happened in the grass and then he's gone up to the fence and thrown up, I don't know. It could have come from anywhere, but and I felt really guilty because I was supposed to mow that day as well. And it was really, really hot, and I was just like, I'll just do it tomorrow. And so I felt really guilty that I hadn't mowed, and I would have felt even worse if I'd have lost him, I think. So moral of that story is now I don't put off the mowing. I just suck it up and I just go out there and I just mow, because we're still in the house that it happened.
Well, that's a good piece of fortune that the bite wasn't anything more than what it was.
Yeah, but ever since he was bitten, his personality pretty much changed since then. And I'm partly at fault for that, I think, because I wouldn't let him out of my sight for easily 3 to 6 months. I was like, you're not going out without supervision, especially in the warmer months. In the cooler months, I'm not as paranoid, I guess. But when he came back home, he was pretty much inside either with me or my partner at the time, and he was like basically watched 24/7. And I'm partly to blame for that, because I should have just sort of stepped off a bit, but I was anxious that it was going to happen again. Mm-hmm. And he's my world, like, you know, so it was, yeah, and I'm probably partly now to blame for all his anxiety he currently has now. But it pretty much sort of stemmed from being attacked on a run and then being bitten by a snake. I think that's where it kind of stemmed from. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize that it was anxiety that was happening. And by the time I realized he was an anxious dog, it's become a little bit too late, I think. His anxiety's kind of managed. It's still a trial and error, I think. And like I do a fair bit of things, and and you've met Chief, and he seems to like you, and you tend to massage him at the forest, which helps. And so when he starts to get anxious, I do a bit of that. But he's also now medicated as well. So
I think it's never too late, and it can just be a question of finding the right method or combination of methods of treatment. It's just like people, you just find the thing that works for him in a particular time.
Yeah. So, I mean, sometimes some things work, and then the next time when that same thing happens and then the thing you used the time before doesn't work, and it can be a little bit frustrating, but I wouldn't give him up for the world.
Absolutely not. Moving on a little bit, let's go to something a little bit more, a little bit less negative than some of the medical issues. What about some weird sort of habits or things particular to Chiefy?
He loves to sing. Not that that's a weird trait for a husky, to the point where I can maybe get him to actually sing on command. He for weird habits, the only thing he really does is like he likes to sleep with his legs in the air, but that's again, it's not really weird for the breed. I don't think anything weird. I don't think he's got any weird habits, unless you count his he likes to be outside. I've got an old recliner, and that's where he just likes to be. He just wants to be a recliner all the time. He's become a bit of an old man.
Hey, sit there and watch the world go by.
Yeah, and I find it so funny because he actually curls like as small as he can make himself, but he'll be on his back with his legs in the air in the recliner. It's interesting to see.
Who is he sort of sharing the household with nowadays, doggy-wise? So he now shares the house with another dog. I got a running dog, Indy. She is now here. She'll be 3 this year. And it was really interesting. He was so good with her when she initially came into the house. I didn't know how he would go with the way he is with his behaviour. And I didn't want his issues to rub off on her. And I knew that was going to be a 50-50 chance that could happen. But the very first day she came into the house, he laid down and, he let her come up to him and sniff him. And then, she'd grab his face and he'd just sit there and he thought it was the most wonderful thing that could possibly happen. And now like that, he'll initiate play with her now, and, he'll go up and he starts grabbing her feet. And if I notice, I say, don't grab her feet, she's my running dog. And then they just chase each other around the backyard for like 10 or 15 minutes. So it's been really good. Oh, nice. And what about like traveling and trips away and things like that with them?
He loves the car. The highest reward I think I can give him is the car. He absolutely loves it. It's the only time I will actually let a leash off him, because trying to get 2 dogs out of the door and into the car can be a bit of a challenge. But he just basically, I will check to make sure nothing's coming, because we live in a high kangaroo prone sort of area. So I make sure there's nothing that can, sort of catch his eye. And then I have the car door open, and I'll just let him out, and he just runs around the car and then jumps in, and he's so excited. We travel a fair bit because during winter we're away nearly every second weekend in the forest. So sometimes he comes and sometimes he doesn't. If he doesn't come, he goes to his nana's house, which is my mum. And I'll actually say to him, do you want to go see Nana? And he'll do a head tilt, and then he just gets all excited and runs around and looks at the front door. So, he stays with my parents if I go somewhere and can't take him. But we go on a lot of adventures together. We go to the lake, and just a few weeks ago we went out to Oberon. They went out to Oberon for the first time. I took both dogs, and like he saw the goose, and he thought that was fantastic. And then. We go to the snow. That's actually a big one. we go to the snow every year. Obviously not this year because of COVID, but he loves snow.
Oh, strange that.
Yeah, I know. The very first time I took him to the snow, we went to Falls Creek. I went to help Pete and Michelle, and I was handling for them. I wasn't going to run on the snow because I'd never done it before, and I was still new to the sport. And when we got out and he touched the snow for the first time, he sort of just looked back at me, and I wish I had filmed it, because the look that went through his face was like, this is amazing. And then he just started bouncing in it. And I was just amazed at how much fun he had. And he just came out to go to the toilet. He's always happy when he's in the snow.
It's like that hidden DNA switch that's like, oh, I know what to do with this stuff.
Yep. He did do a snow run. I didn't actually run him in that race. Pete actually ran him in that race. He ran him in a 3-dog. And Pete, like the two girls that he was running with, I think it was Willow or Wiggle? It might have been Willow and Izzy, and or it might have been Wiggle and Izzy. And then Chief was at the back, and Pete turned around and he said, the girls saw the trailer and tried to run back to the trailer, and Chief was the only one. He goes, you should be very proud, because he did his job. He was the only dog that pulled forward. And I went, because he doesn't normally take his corners. So no, it was really special.
We haven't actually said whereabouts you do live.
I live in Lithgow. So Lithgow is in New South Wales, Australia. It's basically at the base of the Blue Mountains.
So lots of wide open bush space.
That's correct.
So has Chiefy had any other sort of run-ins with different animals?
My mum and dad have a Jack Russell. He wasn't allowed to meet the Jack Russell till he was a lot bigger, because the Jack Russell is a rescue dog, and he had issues himself. But then once Chief was a little bit bigger, he met my parents' dog, and he absolutely loved Gizmo when he was a puppy. Nowadays, when we go to mum and dad's, Gizmo's he's a very sort of in-your-face dog, where he's in your, like, he'll run up to his face and bark, and Chief just like kind of pushes him out of the way and then runs out the side and finds my mum. So that's good. He used to play a lot. Like, he used to be a really good dog at the park, and I wouldn't have to worry, but He's been attacked a few times, and that now leads to him becoming sort of a little bit defensive. Mm-hmm. So I don't let him meet a lot of new dogs, because I don't want to put him in a situation where he feels threatened. Last weekend, actually, when we went up for a run, he actually re-met Sai, which is is a friend of mine's husky, and I'm real funny with letting him meet other dogs, but he was really, really good with Sai, actually. Sai ran up to him, and he actually went into the play bow, and I hadn't seen him do that with another dog other than Indy in a very long time. So it was sort of happy mum moment for me. And he does play with a staffy as well, believe that or not. He met Coda at the park, and he absolutely adores her. He's a bit growly, but it's just play growl. Mm-hmm. And then they just chase each other, and they're the same age as well. So, and then when I bought Indy, and Indy came into the picture, she thought this was fantastic. So now the girls play, and he sits on his couch and he just watches the girls play. So, but yeah, he used to come to a lot of events, because when I went into the sledding world, and then I sort of left Siberian Husky Club, and we went into Siberian Express, and we did a lot of demonstrations. So he's really good for the kids, because he's black and white. So he's like an attraction drawer, if you will. And a lot of kids look, and so he'd always be out and about. And at a lot of those events, they're mainly dog events. So there are a whole bunch of different dogs. So before he started having issues, he would always come and, he'd play with other dogs and things like that. So it's just unfortunate that now he's defensive.
A little less tolerant of other dogs.
Yeah. He's all right with littler dogs. It's the bigger dogs that he sort of has issues with.
Mm-hmm. And understandable from what you've said, seeing as he's had multiple dogs attack him.
Yeah. I've never seen him go up to a dog and purposely start a fight. But I have seen other dogs, come over the top of him, baring their teeth, they've grabbed him and then he's just defended himself. So.
Well, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
So is there any other activities that sort of apart from in the sledding world that he enjoys?
Not really. Other than a walk, I'm surprised he hasn't come out and, heard the word a few times. As far as sporting activities, we don't do anything else other than the sledding. We do walk every day, and we go to the park every now and then, and I go at hours where there are potentially no other dogs there, or I might message Coda's mum and say to her, let's do a dog date at the park, and he'll run around there. But other than basically going in the car to wherever, doesn't matter if we just go 5 minutes down the road or 5 hours away. He's pretty chill.
Mm-hmm. It's reminding me. So I meant to ask when we were talking about the car. What's his favourite position in the car?
Oh, he always sits behind me. He if you try to put him behind the passenger side, he will get frantic and he'll push poor Indy, get sat on and pushed out of the way because he has to be behind mum. And he figured out how to open his window. So it was really fun one day, going down the highway at 110 kilometres an hour, and then the window just goes down and this dog head just came out. So, I have to lock my windows. They get window privileges, if we're at 60 kilometres or less. But normally at around the 80 mark, the windows come up and the AC goes on because they're always strapped in, but I'm mindful that, when you're traveling at 110 down the highway, that wind in your face is probably not the most pleasant thing. Well, not for me anyway, but I don't know about the dog. But I also now have a dog trailer. So if we're going more than an hour away, they're generally in the dog trailer, and he's in the front bay, which is closest to the car as well. So
going back to some of the sledding stuff, does he run single or does he run in a couple of times? I know you mentioned he ran in the 3-dog in the snow.
Yeah, he started off as he's mainly a 1-dog. He did get hooked up to his brother and ran in a 2-dog. And we actually have a first place ribbon for that. Don't ask me how that happened, but it did. So because, they didn't have a lot of training and we were new to that race as well. So coming first was really special and really shocking at the same time. And he ran 2-dog with his brother. Before he had all of the drama that happened to him, he would actually teach other dogs, pass training and line out. And he would be the dog that I would, send out with a peewee, which is, like a younger child. He would go out with those, but he's mainly run a single. I have hooked him up to my girl, but she runs a little bit faster than him and she drags him. So now I only hook them up to do line out training, but he's mainly been a 1-dog. He did run in the 3-dog at the snow, and he did run in a team of 6, but the team of 6 were too fast for him. Not that anything happened, like his feet were fine, but he basically just had no choice but to go forward. And that was when he was starting to have a bit of issues with the scooter and jumping back. So I thought maybe if he runs in a team, he might, see, oh, this isn't so bad. But because he got dragged, I don't think it was a very good experience for him.
As you know, I ask everyone to complete the sentence, I can't believe my dog ate
a pillow.
A pillow? Oh, no.
A pillow. And it wasn't even mine. And this was actually a few months ago too. He stayed at my mum and dad's, and when I came back to pick him up, Mum went, "You owe your father a pillow." And I went, "What? What happened?" And he'd absolutely just shredded this thing. As a puppy, he ate, all sorts of things that puppies eat, like shoes, and, he'd take pegs and clothes off the washing line and stuff like that. But I couldn't believe it. He's 8 and he hadn't chewed a thing in so long. And then she was just like, he's just eaten and destroyed your father's pillow.
What sort of pillow was it?
It was one of those banana-shaped. No, I don't think it was the banana-shaped pillow. I think it was the long body pillow. Okay.
So those foam sort of things, not the feather sort of type.
No, I think it was a feather.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I was just like, oh my goodness, you can't come back here now.
And it's good that he hasn't had a whole lot of other things to add to that lately.
Yes, indeed. Like he's just eaten normal puppy stuff that, puppies get into everything. But yeah, it was just when Mum told me, I couldn't help but laugh. And I was like, I'm so sorry, but that's really funny.
So any other things that are coming to mind as far as something you'd like to share with Chief?
No, not really, I don't think. I mean, he gets a lot of nicknames. He gets called Squishy. If you actually look at him straight on, his nose is crooked. And I've spoken to a few people about this, and our vet actually said that she thinks he didn't have enough room to grow. And so the puppy in front of him, he basically sat on his face, and that's why he's got like a smushed nose. And he'll actually answer to that too. He'll answer to Squish. So, and that's pretty good. He used to actually have recall. And, for a husky, that's not an easy thing to do. But his recall is very different to most, I think. If he starts running away from me and he's off lead and I say, come back here, and he doesn't come back, I'll actually turn around and go, okay, bye, I'm going to go get Nuggets now. And he'll come running down to me because Nuggets are just fabulous.
Whatever it takes.
Yep. And I just start walking and I just go, okay, bye. And I start walking away. And he's like, wait, you're going to leave me? Don't leave me.
Excellent technique.
Yeah. I haven't found anything like that with my next dog, but, if she takes off, she's gone. She doesn't care. But he's like, don't know, I've got to go get Nuggets. And then I'm like, because I've said Nuggets now, I've got to go either buy Nuggets or I've always got Nuggets in the freezer. So I just chuck them in the oven when we get home. And I'm like, I'm a man of my word.
What about grooming wise? How's he been with that?
He is actually really good. He loves to be brushed. He really loves to be brushed. When it comes to actual bath time, that's a whole different ball game. I usually take them to Pet Stop to wash them, and I go very, very early in the morning, like pretty much dead on open time. And the first thing I say is, I am just apologising now because as soon as he gets in the bath, he screams blue murder. So I've actually had staff come up to me going, "Oh, we thought you left because he stopped crying." And I'm washing the next dog who is completely silent. And I said, "No, we're still here. He's been done now." He's not a real big fan of the dryer, but he'll tolerate it. But the brush, as far as brushing him goes, he absolutely loves a brush. And I always say to him, because he lies down on one side, and then I say, "Okay, up you get. I've got to do your good side now," and he'll roll over for me. Now that he's got arthritis, he doesn't really like the back legs so much being done. He'll tolerate it for a bit, and then I've got to realize that I have to stop. I can't just keep going because it's sore. And so I just do a couple of brushes, and then I let him be, and then I might go back a couple of hours later and brush him again on that same side, and then the next day or a couple of days after that I'll do the other side. But he's pretty good. He doesn't like his feet being touched though, so clipping his nails is interesting.
Thank you very, very much for sharing all about Chiefy today. It has been an interesting conversation.
He's always interesting, my boy. Thank you for having me.
Oh, look forward to catching up sometime soon.
Yes, hopefully before next year, but I don't know, with COVID, the way it's going, who knows what's going to happen.
We can only hope.
Yep.
Thank you again very much. Take care.
No problem. Have a good weekend.
Thank you very much for listening. I hope that you enjoyed the show. And if you did, why not share it on whatever form of social media you would like to? Or if you feel like it, leave me a review. Always looking for feedback. Until next week, stay safe and remember, your dog is family.